A seasoned participant in London's never-ending gangland war, former Scotland Yard Deputy Chief Inspector Colin Tattersall, portrayed by the great Toby Jones, gave Richie his own chance. Based on his decades of experience, Tattersall advises DS Fisk and DC Mikasa pursuing Conrad Harrigan that forming an alliance with their adversary is the key to dismantling a criminal organization. This leads to a confrontation with Richie Stevenson, which culminates in one of MobLand's most unexpected turns to yet. Fisk readily agrees, primarily to avoid appearing weak, when a defiant Mikasa shouts out that Richie will never own them after rightfully questioning the two agents who owns what in their planned pooling of resources. Richie shoots and kills them, ensuring they hear the final words, no one owns Richie Stevenson. The true motive for their murder is deeper, even while their arrogant suggestion that Richie would be owned by the police, basically turning him into a grass, didn't assist their own cause. In just a few minutes, Fisk and Mikasa demonstrated that they were straight and that they would not be suitable joint venture partners. Instead, they would be Richie's worst enemy, they would have control over his actions, and even if he were granted immunity from prosecution, Fisk and Mikasa probably wouldn't tolerate his killing people the way he plans to. Richie was certain that they would fail, but Deputy Chief Inspector Tattersall, who was more seasoned and consequently more accommodating, knew how to play ball. Following the killings of Fisk and Mikasa, Colin Tattersall makes it apparent that he is aware of his part in a scheme with Richie. Although he says he had already imprisoned Richie twice, it appears that Tattersall may have been more amiable to Richie than a legitimate police inspector ought to be to a deadly crime lord. He and Richie go all the way back to 75. Conrad's main opponent now has the support and resources of the London police, as well as the freedom to act, as Tattersall is supposedly taking charge of the investigation and dealing with Richie. Harry is informed by Conrad that a man thinks twice before picking up the phone to Kat McAllister. It's obvious that Kat McAllister is some kind of extremely high-ranking official, either of a larger criminal enterprise or possibly a shadow agency like the CIA, based on the context provided by everyone who mentions her name and the fact that even an international cartel follows her instructions without question. It is almost a given that a favor owed to someone with that much unrestricted authority will be returned, albeit for a risky and unlawful purpose. Once more, it's obvious that Kat has an interest in the international trafficking of firearms, drugs, and other illegal stuff, regardless of her true role. She accepts Conrad's offer of 50% of the fentanyl money he plans to transfer in exchange for facilitating his rendezvous with Jamie. She probably leans more toward the criminal underworld than the CIA, given her willingness to accept money from such a source, but no one would be surprised by a dishonest public servant. She had already asked Harry to work for her, demonstrating her knowledge of his abilities and her obvious intention to use him for anything to advance her own business. Harry might be recruited as a black operative to work for her, or he might be asked to infiltrate another criminal organization. Kevin thinks a favor to Kat would be bad for the Harrigans since he might even be asked to give up the Harrigans if that is what Kat wants. In MobLand, Kat's favors will undoubtedly be revealed soon. Richie's right-hand man, Freddy, has been under Harry's control ever since he got pictures of Ron cheating on Richie with Freddy. In MobLand Episode 8, he had his last meeting with Harry. In order to get Freddy to join Harry and Kevin, Harry pretends that he and Kevin plan to take over the Harrigan crime empire and will kill Richie in the process. As a result, Freddy gains Harry's trust and promptly provides him with the details of Richie's fentanyl operation, which Conrad can employ with Jamie. But off-screen, Freddy also tells Harry who the Harrigans member who had been working closely with Richie was. Harry kills Freddy by throwing him off the top of the building after learning this knowledge. He caught the express elevator to the lower floor because Freddy had fulfilled his role and was now just a loose end to tie off. It's quite safe to assume that Mave has been working with Richie the entire time. Her call to Richie regarding Brendan and Serafina's whereabouts in Antwerp may seem like the height of foolishness, but it wouldn't have been if she had been cooperating with him up until that point and genuinely thought he would spare Brendan. That would also explain why, at the end of episode 7, Richie chose not to inform Conrad about Maeve's call. Richie would gain by keeping her as a mole in the Harrigan home as he attempts to destroy Conrad if she had assisted him up until that time. Conrad has previously referred to Harry as his son because of Harry's devotion to him, but Kevin's response to Maeve calling him his other brother suggests otherwise. He starts to cuss her out for even bringing it up, but they are cut off by a happy Eddie, which causes Maeve to raise an eyebrow at Kevin. Eddie, who is not actually Kevin's kid but rather Conrad's son with Bella, with whom we know Conrad had affairs prior to Kevin marrying her, could be the other brother she mentions as another potential heir to the Harrigan crown. Kevin's diligent pursuit of the address of the former jail guard Rusby in episode 8 makes it very clear what his ambitions are. He's willing to pretend to know Rusby's wife, who is suffering from dementia, in an effort to find out what time he comes to visit her, so he's at the point of desperation in his quest. Kevin was raped by the old jail guard while he was institutionalized as a teenager, and it doesn't appear like he is asking him to apologize. No matter how old he becomes, Kevin wants to murder the man who tortured him.